Hello friends, welcome back. This is the next installment in the continuing series of corncob pipe modification. In this case we are modifying this former Missouri meerschaum diplomat into what we hope will be a brandy shaped pipe. So at the end of the last segment you saw that we had fit this walnut shank to the pipe, and we began reducing the diameter here to something close to its final diameter. And the next step is going to be to fit an ebonite stem blank to this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drill where we currently just have a draft hole. I'm going to drill that out further in order to create a mortise for the stem to fit into. And that mortise is going to be 11/32 in diameter, and it is going to be 5/8 inch deep. And that'll be the place where the stem will insert into this. So I will do that first on the lathe, and then I will remove this from the lathe and begin to work on the ebonite stem blank. So I've by again doing comparisons with the picture that we have here and ratios based on the size of the bowl here, I've determined that I want the stem to be about 2 inches long. So that'll be 2 inches coming out from the end of the walnut. Now remember, there's a tenon that has to go into the mortise that we're going to drill here, and I like that to be 5/8 inch long. Therefore the total size of the blank I need to make is 2 5/8 inch. So the first thing I'll do is take this over to the bandsaw and cut off a 2 5/8 inch piece, and then I will have to do a number of things. I'll chuck this bar, and this is just a solid rod of ebonite. There's no holes in this or anything. So I'll take that 2 5/8 inch piece, chuck it in the lathe, and the first thing I will do is drill a hole using this little drill bit here. Now this is it's an off-size drill bit. It's actually sold by Vermont Freehand, formerly PMO Pipes, and it's designed to work with this tenon turning tool that you've seen me use in previous videos. So this bit, it's about 1/8 of an inch. It's a little bit bigger than 1/8 of an inch. I think it's like a 32nd bigger, so it's just slightly larger. That will drill a hole, and we will drill that hole 5/8 inch deep, and then we will bring the tenon turning tool in, and using that 5/8 inch deep hole as a pilot hole, we will place it. I apologize, it's actually not 5/8, it's an inch deep, because we need to account for the extra size of this rod here. So using that hole as a pilot hole, we will use the tenon turning tool to actually turn down the tenon. We will test fit that into the 11/32 hole that we have. If we need to reduce the size at all, we can sand it a little bit, get a good fit. And then at that point, once the blank is fit in here, we will do the drilling of the airway. And that is done using this drill bit, which is a little bit different from what you normally see. This is a tapered drill bit. You can see it comes to a rather small point here, and is quite a bit wider at this end than this close to 1/8 inch bit. So that'll go into the to the slightly oversized 1/8 inch hole on the end, and we'll drill all the way through. This very pointy narrow end will actually exit the blank, and that will form the beginning of our funnel at the bit of the stem. So eventually we will actually open that hole up a lot using files and everything, but the idea is that we want an airway that tapers down towards the button. So this will be the end where the tenon is, the end that's being inserted into the shank, and this will be the end where we wind up forming the button. So once that drilling is done, we'll be able to put these two pieces together, and then I can do some shaping of the ebonite to bring the diameter down to match the diameter that we have here. And then once that's done, these two can be put together and sanded together, so we're sure that we're going to get a perfect fit between those two pieces. So that's a long description for a fair amount of lathe work that I'm not going to show you. but I will bring you back once I've got the blank fit to the shank. Alright folks, we are back and we've made some nice progress here. So first off, we've drilled out the mortise on the end here. We cut the stem blank. We shaped a tenon on the end of the stem blank. And we did that by drilling it out with this slightly oversized 1/8 inch plus drill bit, and then using the tenon turning tool from Pimo, now Vermont Freehand, and that allowed us to turn the tenon to just the right size to fit snugly in there. And you can see we've got a nice light tight fit up against the walnut. Well, maybe you can't see, but trust me, it's a nice light tight fit. We then came in with this tapered drill bit from this end and drilled all the way through until we got a small exit hole here. So this will form the opening of the airway. The button will be formed around this point, and then we will shape this, funnel it out to be the final place where you're drawing the smoke through. And this will of course be the tenon of the stem. So the next step will be to chuck this up as one piece and bring the diameter down here so that these are equal diameter. And I'm going to keep that fairly constant, but I am going to flare this out just a little bit at this end. This is not going to be a fishtail, so we're not going to do anything dramatic, but we do want to leave a little bit more meat here just to help us form the button and to allow the mouthpiece to be just slightly wider than the body of the stem. It's not a large flare, but just a little bit. So that's what we'll do next, and I will bring you back when that's done. Alright folks, there we have it. So this has now been fit. The stem blank has been fit to the shank, and we've got a nice fit there all the way around. And we are pretty much ready to begin the what I'm going to call final shaping, although there's a lot of it to do, so we're not done by any stretch. But you can begin to see the overall shape of the pipe now. Button's obviously going to be down here. There's going to be a nice bend put in this, and we're going to be carving this up to kind of create that sweeping effect that the brandy has. At least that's the plan. We'll see how that actually turns out. So the last thing that I'm going to do in this video is really quite simple. I'm going to figure out first off the stem orientation, which for this is not critical because it's a fairly symmetrical stem, so it's basically in the orientation that it's going to be in now. And I'm going to use this thin masking tape to begin to kind of mark out the shape of the stem. So right now I'm just going to take a piece of this, sighting down, making sure that I'm holding this straight. I'm going to place this across where the airway is going to be opened up. So this is basically where I'm going to funnel out the end of the airway. And again, I'm just making sure that that is parallel to the top of the bowl. And then we will bring that down on either side. Now what that's done is it's first off begun to delineate the button for me, because I know that when I cut the slot here, I'm going to want to center it on this piece of tape. I'm trying to see if I can get the hole to show through there a little bit for you. Yeah, so the hole's right there. So this is going to be the center of the slot. And that kind of gives me some idea of where I'm carving above and below, and it helps prevent my carving into the airway, which is not an uncommon thing when you're making a stem. The next thing I will do is take another piece of tape, larger this time, and I'm just going to go around the edge here, and this is going to delineate the button for me. So I don't want to file away any of the ebonite at the end here until it's time to shape the button, because the button's going to be a little bit bigger than the rest of the stem, and therefore I don't want to shape it now because I want to make sure that I keep that excess material available. So that just kind of gives me a no-go zone when I'm sanding and filing. That should be good enough. Just tear that off. Okay, so that's beginning to mark out how we're going to make this. I am going to put a small mark up here, just so that I know which end I'm considering the top. Now again, because this is symmetrical, it doesn't matter. If you're doing something like a saddle stem, that becomes a lot more important. But for this, I'm not too concerned, but I do want to know which end is up. So we'll take this off now. And I'm going to continue these lines, again with tape, down the sides, and that's going to show me where my draft hole is going through the stem. And again, the goal is to not file into that, so you always need to keep the stem thicker than the airway. It sounds ridiculous, but you'd be amazed at how easy it is to forget that. So by putting the tape down the sides, that gives me a guide, both to help me evenly reduce the top and the bottom, but also prevent getting into that, or cutting into the airway and having to start over again. So I will extend that down here, and that'll pretty much be everything marked off for the stem. The other thing I need to do now is to very carefully think about where the airway is here, because if I'm going to be carving this, I want to be real careful not to carve into the airway, because this represents an awful lot of work, and I would hate to have to start this over again. So to do that, we'll again use a little bit of tape, but I'm probably also going to actually mark on this because I know I'm going to carve a lot of this away, and just try to figure out how to best, maybe just by putting a drill bit through there. No, that's not the right size, but you can get the idea. I can put a drill bit through there, and that'll sort of give me a indication of where that airway is, and then I can mark around it and kind of figure out where I'm going to be carving. So I'll work on that, and I'll bring you back once it's all marked out. Alright friends, so we are finally ready to begin the final carving and shaping of this Cob brandy. So as I said, I've marked out where the airway is running on the stem blank, and the area that I want to reserve for the button. And now what I'll do is a combination of using a belt sander, sandpaper, and files, and I will shape this to a essentially straight shank with just a little bit of a flare that's already built into the blank. So just beginning to narrow this down, narrow until we're down to something close to where we'd like to see a button here. That will take a fair amount of time because I do most of that by hand. I do use a belt sander in the beginning just to start to reduce some of the areas where I'm going to take a lot off, but there's not a lot to be taken off of this blank. So most of this is going to be hand filing. For this, it's going to be a combination of sanding and filing and carving, sort of like I did for the for fitting this. And I've marked off, I actually just used pencil, but to make it a little bit easier for you to see, I've put a piece of tape on here that is marking where the airway is. And as I said, I've used a drill bit to let me visualize that on both ends before, and I placed the piece of, well, actually I drew a line, and then I placed a piece of tape over the line to help you see it. And I've also drawn on here some lines that are roughly indicating how I'm going to carve this. So I can get, I don't want to get too close to this airway, but I can get, somewhat close down here, and that'll be fine. So all this wood can be removed, and that'll allow me to bring this up to a point where it meets this this piece right here. Now you have to keep in mind that this is the mortise actually extends down into here, so I have to be careful not to cut into the mortise at this point, which is why this is kind of sweeping up like that. And the same on the bottom. So we'll just start at a point around here and kind of sweep this up. When that's done, we can then worry about the sides, and that'll pretty much be free carving. Once I have those parts removed, it'll be pretty obvious how to shape this and how to bring it in to meet this this already reduced section here. So that's it. This is going to take this last step is going to take a fair amount of time, and then The remaining steps are going to be to color the bowl, and to be honest, I still have not worked out the details of that, so that's going to require some experimentation. And I've got this old beaten up country gentleman that I've done all sorts of experiments on. So I'm going to be stripping this down to bare cob, which is what this is, treating it with some plaster, and then going in and trying different color combinations to see what I can get that is going to complement this walnut and give us a nice dark brown finish. Once that's done, it's really just a matter of kind of final fit and finish and polish, and we'll be there. So depending on how long the coloring takes, this could be just one more video before we've got a finished pipe. If the coloring becomes a problem and I'm not able to fit that in, we may have to extend this for an additional video. So 1 to 2 more videos and we should be at the end of this project. But so far it's coming along quite nicely. I'm very pleased with the overall shape of the pipe, and I think that once we get these parts carved out, it's really going to start to come to life. So I thank you for watching. Please, if you're not subscribed, please go ahead and click subscribe so you can stay up to date on the installments as we go through these projects. If you are subscribed, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And beyond that, I look forward to any comments you may have. And I will look forward to talking to you all again very soon. Goodbye now.